You all know what it feels like to get a real fright. Well, imagine what life would be like if you were flooded with that sort of intense fear for no apparent reason when you least expected it. That's what it's like to live with an anxiety disorder. It's normal to feel anxious in stressful or dangerous situations, but it quickly passes and life goes on. But anxiety is a continuum, and for some people it doesn't pass. It becomes such a problem that it starts to rule their lives.
I realised that I just panicked every time I was away from my home. My home was my safe place. So if I was inside these walls, I was safe. Even to go to the letterbox was a biggie.
Sandra Snow was in her early 30s, happily married with 2 children under 5, when her anxiety started to take over.
Every time I went out in the car, I couldn't wait to get home. As soon as I got home, I felt fine. You'd have a little rest and I'd be fine. And then afterwards I thought, this is not car sickness, there's something else going on. So then I found that I had palpitations in the car. I'd feel queasy, I'd feel nauseous, and I just didn't feel comfortable. And then, so of course, you know, over time I just didn't go out anymore. I just stayed home. I made excuses. I said I wasn't well. I had a headache. I had stomach bug. I had something wrong with me. Children were not well. I just made up so many excuses.
Looking back, Sandra realises there were some things she'd been avoiding for a long time. But after a particularly stressful 3 months looking after 2 small children, a sick husband and his business as well as her own, her anxiety took over.
I sort of started, perhaps years ago, sort of avoiding a few things. I didn't like going to the movies and a few things like that, and being in big crowds. And then, so I think the stress of you know, looking after the family, I think was just, you know, that was just another chapter of it, really.
For the next 7 years, Sandra lived every day in constant fear of the panic attacks that came to rule her life.
It's a horrible feeling. It's sort of like what people say is a heart attack. Your heart is just absolutely pumping, and you do sort of get slight chest pain. You get very breathless. Your head is spinning. Your knees are like jelly. You're not sure whether you're going to vomit, because everything is all in turmoil. Your whole stomach, your head, your whole body just is in. It's like shock, I suppose, like a shock, and it's just a horrible feeling.
At the core of these intensely unpleasant experiences is anxiety, and a mechanism that you all have to help you survive sudden danger by either fighting or running away. It's known as the fight-flight response.
Anxiety is a normal symptom, and we can all have to be able to experience it. But with anxiety disorders, the pathways that serve that anxiety are just much too sensitive. They fire off much too easily in people with anxiety disorders compared to people who don't have those problems.
These anxiety pathways involve 3 main parts of the brain. So the stimulus, historically perhaps a wild animal, but these days more likely to be a speeding car, goes into the brain through the eyes, and the response is coordinated in a part of the brain called the amygdala. This activates the thinking part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. At the same time, the more primitive brainstem is activated, resulting in the physical symptoms of anxiety, effectively the fight-flight response. Your heart rate goes up. Your breathing becomes fast and shallow. Your muscles tighten up, all designed to help you survive physical danger, but all open to developing into a full-blown panic attack. Especially with the sort of misinterpretation that can happen with anxiety disorders. Because if you do have an anxiety disorder, these parts of the brain are easily activated.